Hey folks, Coach Josh Wood here. Today I want to talk to you about RPE. So RPE is a measure of intensity, so how hard we're going each day. And it stands for rating of perceived exertion. Essentially, your way of judging how hard something feels. We can measure this in a few ways. So we can look at it, it's on a scale from 1 to 10, and we can look at it in terms of percentage or your best guess of your maximal being 100% or 10 on the scale. Or we can look at it in terms of reps in reserve, RIR. Now, reps in reserve is a very handy way of looking at your intensity level, how hard you feel something is. What you can do is if a program says you need to do a movement, say deadlift, for 3 sets of 8 at an RPE of 7, that would mean that you need to do all 3 of those sets and rest accordingly to keep each set at an 8 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10. One way for us to calculate that is going, okay, I've done the movement, it felt pretty good, I could probably do 2 more or 3 more. If you could do 2 more reps or feel like you could do 2 more reps, that would be an RPE of about 8 because your reps in reserve is 2. So we can subtract our reps in reserve from our max scale RPE of 10. If you could do maybe 3 more, then it's probably a 7. Now, when we're looking at RPE in that scale of 1 to 10, we're looking at essentially 1 being the most easy, 10 being absolute maximal effort. And when we say maximal, the maximal effort would be something like the most weight you can lift off the ground in a deadlift, the most weight you can squat on your back. For 1 rep would be your absolute 1 rep RPE of 10. But what we have to do is look at RPE in terms of how you're feeling at the time. So your RPE of 10 in a movement, let's say the squat for 5 reps. You might be able to squat 5 reps at 100 kilos on 1 day. But then you have a couple nights of poor sleep. You have some bad food choices. Maybe you're hungover or the kids kept you up all night. Whatever it is, it affects our life. It's gonna affect our training. And if I said you had to go in and squat your maximal squats for 5s again, so 5 reps at 100 kilos, you might not be able to do that. So instead of saying, this is the exact weight or percentage of your max you have to do, we can say, go as hard as you feel that day. RPE 10 is as hard as you can feel. So you do your workout, and on that day, 5 reps maxing out on your squat might actually be 95 kilos. We're looking at the intensity of the movement, not the best case scenario. So RPE allows us to adjust our workout or auto-regulate as we need to throughout our training cycle. So when we're choosing this, when we're looking at our programming and deciding what effort we're putting in for the day, try and either think of how hard you've gone previously and how hard that felt. And if that's hard for you to do because maybe you're new to training and you don't have a lot of background, you can also think in your head, how many more repetitions could I do on this movement at this weight? If your prescribed RPE is 8, that means you should have about 2 reps in reserve. Any more than that, and you probably need to go a bit harder, meaning increase the weight. So just to recap, RPE, or rating of perceived exertion, is a measure of intensity. It's a subjective measure, meaning it's how do you feel? How hard do you feel you're going at this point in time on a scale from 1 being no effort to 10 being maximal effort. Most of our work is going to take place between 5 and 10. Our warm-ups are going to take place 5 and lower, typically, depending on what we're doing and what your training capabilities are. As we progress through different cycles, we're always going to taper up to a higher RPE than at the beginning. So it's going to get higher intensity and heavier weights, but our repetitions and volume are going to go down. And that's a pretty standard method of programming. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I hope that's helped. And you can throw those questions in the bottom here in the comments, or you can just shoot me a message. Thanks.